Unit 18 is a new facility. Your child was selected.
How come they didn't raise the alarm? How come they didn't blow the whistle?
It always ends up with the same story, one of disaster.
Nadine Dodd's son, Cleveland, died in October last year after self-harming while detained in a cell within Unit 18, the youth wing of a maximum security adult prison. He was 16 years old. It was Western Australia's first recorded death in youth custody.
Nadine, she believes the system killed her child. She believes the prison killed her child.
This is Western Australia's only dedicated youth detention facility, Banksia Hill. In recent years, authorities have been on the brink of losing control, with riots and assaults on staff. To manage things, they've unlawfully kept detainees in solitary confinement, sometimes up to 24 hours a day. And in mid-2022, the state started to transfer some difficult-to-manage children to a new temporary wing inside the adult prison, Casuarina. The new wing, called Unit 18, came with promises from the state's Department of Justice of better treatment and facilities.
We've got intensive education, therapeutic programs, mental health support, psychological support.
It's here at Unit 18 where staff found Cleveland hanging in the early hours of October 12 last year. Suicide prevention researcher Jerry Georgaros has been supporting Nadine and advocating for her family as a coronial inquest in Perth investigates her son's death.
Can you share thoughts about where you live when you grew up?
That's upsetting, saying them, because it's not going to happen. My son didn't get the chance to do any of that. He didn't get that chance to grow up.
Since April, the details leading up to Cleveland's death have been aired in open court, including revelations about the inner workings of Unit 18. The inquest has heard the Department of Justice initially claimed Unit 18 would be a safer place, but former department boss Dr. Adam Thomason has conceded they were unwittingly sending children to a more dangerous place.
You agree that Unit 18 was established based on a series of grievous lies?
Yes.
The court heard Cleveland Dodd was mostly kept in solitary confinement because there wasn't enough staff. Dr. Thomason acknowledged this amounted to institutional abuse. Before he fatally self-harmed, Cleveland received no treatment for his diagnosed depression, and the youth justice officer assigned to him never saw him.
Listening to all his lies. Well, they said that it was a safe place, but it wasn't.
It breaks me. It breaks me like it should any human being, that we've got to continue to beg for our rights and for the rights of children. From who? From other human beings.
Dr. Thomason broke down in court while explaining he had grown defensive, responding to criticism during his time as Director General.
Having spent 30 years in welfare, I was now the guy hurting kids, and that was extremely hard to deal with. We were failing.
Despite the admissions of lies, the Corrective Services Minister at the time, Bill Johnston, is standing behind his decision to open Unit 18.
I acted in good faith to make a decision. And people forget that this was a small cohort of violent offenders. We had to provide a safe environment for the staff. And it's just not acceptable that staff were subject to violence by detainees. That was unacceptable. And I don't apologise for saying that the safety of the staff was always the number one priority.
Professor Chris Caneen is a criminologist who has worked in the youth and Indigenous justice space for decades.
We don't need an inquiry to tell us that putting children in adult facilities does not work. You can have royal commissions, you can have coroner's inquiries and so on, and they can make recommendations, but whether they have effect is essentially a political decision.
In April this year, 6 months after Cleveland's death, and with the inquest ongoing, Unit 18 stopped accepting detainees with the highest risk of self-harm after the inquest heard evidence it was impossible to adequately monitor them at the facility. It's an improvement that forms part of a new promise from the state government, which has decided to keep Unit 18 open until it builds another facility.
What was happening was people were being assaulted at such a rate that they were going on workers' compensation leave in large numbers, or they were leaving the service altogether. That's not happening now. We are attracting more officers. The officers are going to work. They're feeling safer and the environment is safer.
Since Cleveland's death, the WA government has assured repeatedly that detainees are getting more out of cell time, and many of the services promised at Unit 18 are now actually being delivered. At the end of this inquest, the coroner, Philip Urquhart, will likely make recommendations for more change, but he can't mandate anything. He told the court he can only hope.
We need to ask the basic question, does youth detention, does the imprisonment of children just give rise to these problems over and over again?
And I've never seen so many staggering revelations. These admissions have got to lead to some form of accountability.
I can't keep talking about this over and over. It's not going to bring my son home to me.
And if you need help right now, you can call Lifeline on 13 11 14 or the Crisis Support Line for Indigenous Australians 13 Yarn on 139276.